new era of the Pokemon trading card game has begun. Rotation has occurred, at least in Pokemon TCG Live, and then we also have the launch of Temporal Forces and the return of Ace Spec cards. And today, I wanted to talk about those Ace Spec cards with relation to the League Battle decks and ask the question, should League Battle decks come with Ace Spec cards going forward? I'm Jeff from InThirdPerson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive into this subject. Just some quick background before I really dive in. League Battle decks are pre-constructed decks released by the Pokemon Company that are meant for competitive play. The gold standard here is the Mew VMAX deck, where it's actually only 22 cards off from the World Championship deck that won in 2023, but all of these are meant to be competitively viable when fully upgraded, and these decks are supposed to be built that in a way where it's a lot of the way there, and you only have to add a couple of cards and you're good. One of the quirks about League Battle decks is they have exactly 6 holo foil cards, and this is an important thing to note because we will come back to this idea of 6 holo foil cards, and all of the holo foil cards are Pokemon. Now, I don't have the zoomed in picture here, but in the Miraidon one, we've got Miraidons and Regielekis, Mew, Genesect. Those are all holo cards. Palkia, Vivistar. Even the Radiant Greninja in the back is holo as well. And then in the Gardevoir one, we've got 3 Gardevoir EX, 1 Lumineon V, 1 Radiant Greninja, and a Mew EX. So it's always holo cards, and it's always the Pokemon on the front, giving it some shelf appeal so that when a casual person or someone looking to get into the game buys one of these decks, they can see like, oh, look at all the cool Pokemon cards that I get when I buy this box. And on top of that, the Pokemon they usually choose for the front of the box are also very good. So you get the double whammy of these cards look great and also they're competitively viable. Ace Spec cards made their debut a long time ago, but they are back in full force in Temporal Forces. And these are trainer cards or special energy cards that are so good that you're only allowed to have one of them per deck, and not like here you can have 1 Prime Catcher and 1 Maximum Belt. No, just 1 Ace Spec, period. And these are incredible cards that are already making a massive impact on the competitive meta. And another thing to note here is that these cards are also holofoil as well, which begs the question, should League Battle decks come with an Ace Spec card going forward? I'm going to be arguing both sides of the discussion, and we're going to start with why they should be included. And I think the first point is pretty pertinent to this discussion because in the competitive meta, every single deck now has an Ace Spec. You cannot afford to go into a competitive battle without an Ace Spec because they give you such a massive advantage. I went on Limitless and pulled just a bunch of examples of decks using Ace Spec cards. Here's Charizard, for example, with the Maximum Belt. I've seen some builds that have Prime Catcher instead, but regardless, all Charizard builds have an Ace Spec card. Here's Lugia, making a huge comeback in Temporal Forces. Uses Master Ball. I know I used the old art here, that's the one that came with Limitless, but you can use the old art. It works exactly the same as the new art, still using a Ace Spec card in the deck. The new Future Box deck, which I'm having an absolute blast playing. Prime Catcher is absolutely insane in this deck. Gardevoir is one of the big users of Hero's Cape. The new Ancient Box deck is a big fan of Awakening Drum for drawing extra cards. Even Neo Upper Energy, considered the worst Ace Spec card by far, has found a home in at least one deck. Here's an example of a Terra Greninja EX deck, which is not out internationally yet. This is only in Japan, but it has Neo Upper Energy, and it makes a lot of sense. Greninja's a stage 2. This adds 2 energy to Greninja, and Greninja has an attack that costs 3, so being able to cover 2 with just 1 attachment is amazing. All of that said, literally every single competitive deck has an Ace Spec card, and you don't want to go without it, so adding it into the League Battle deck makes a lot of sense. It would also be nice to get one because they're really hard to pull. Here's some data from TCG Player where they looked at 8,000 packs of Temporal Forces and estimate that the pull rates for these are pretty rough. You're looking at about 1 in 20 packs to get an Ace Spec, and if you want to pull a specific one, you're looking at 1 in 140 packs. Now, I would not advise you buy packs in order to find a specific card. If you like opening packs, like, just go for it and have some fun, but don't go in expecting to get the Ace Spec card you're looking for. I kind of bought a few and I did not get any Ace Spec cards, let alone the one I was looking for. And right now, they can be expensive. So you're thinking, I'm just going to buy the single because it's cheaper than me buying 140 packs. And technically, yes, that's true. And especially for some of the cheaper ones, Reboot Pod and Awakening Drum, those seem pretty reasonable in price. But some of the best ones like Prime Catcher and Maximum Belt are really expensive relative to other Pokemon cards on the market. And I know $26 and not necessarily like breaking the bank, but relative to other cards, it can be a lot, and I'm not necessarily comfortable spending that much right now, especially if I hope that the prices come down. Like $26 is almost the price of the League Battle deck in its entirety. So being able to just get one of these in the deck would be incredible. Of course, we would like to have it all, but there are reasons to not want Ace Spec cards in these League Battle decks. And I think the biggest one is that we lose a Pokemon in the process, right? These packages have a maximum of 6 holo foil cards, and if we add an Ace Spec card, we're gonna lose a Pokemon in the process. And in certain archetypes that require at least 6 holo foils, a lot of times many competitive decks need more than 6 holo foil cards, we're gonna be sacrificing a Pokemon in exchange for an Ace Spec card. In certain cases, I might be totally fine with that. In other cases, maybe not so much. Another factor here is, what if I don't like the Ace Spec? Here's an example from Limitless. I pulled 2 different decks that did very well. The one on the left has Maximum Belt, and the one on the right has Prime Catcher. Both of them did great. Neither of these are the wrong choice, but they're different. And what if the Pokemon Company releases a League Battle deck and it's not the Ace Spec that I want? That would suck, especially if it comes at the cost of a Pokemon that we can all agree should be in the box. For example, what if we got the wrong Ace Spec and we had to lose a Charizard EX in the process? I think we could all agree 3 Charizard EX would be great, but what if we only got 2 and then half of the people thought we got the wrong Ace Spec in the process? So I think that if we're going to do League Battle decks, I think there should be a higher priority on the Pokemon and making sure we have the right counts of the Pokemon before we get to Ace Spec cards. And certain decks just run a lot of holo foil cards where you kind of need all those spots for the Pokemon so that you have a really nice base, and from there you can pick which Ace Spec you want. From a business perspective, I think there is a factor of shelf appeal as well. And Pokemon's strategy with these products, any sort of box product that they have on the shelf, whether it's the blister packs that have the promo card in, or League Battle decks, or those big premium collector boxes, the holo cards are a big deal. And it's always Pokemon that they show on the front. And it's always like, buy this product, get these Pokemon, because they know holo foil Pokemon cards sell. And when you take out the Pokemon and you put in a not Pokemon, whether it's this weird sonar gun looking thing or a cape or what have you, it just makes the product less appealing than if there were 6 Pokemon on the box. Without any sort of understanding of the competitive connotations of these cards, which deck would you pick? The one on the left with the sonar gun thing, or the one on the right with everybody's favorite Pokemon, Mew EX? And yes, from a competitive perspective, Mew EX can work in Gardevoir. It doesn't necessarily make sense in a lot of builds of Gardevoir, but I think it would sell more to most audiences with Mew EX on the box versus whatever Ace Spec you put on there. And yes, competitive players might be like, yeah, but this is the best Ace Spec card and it fits better for Gardevoir. But there's a shelf appeal factor here where even if it's not necessarily the better card for the deck, it would probably sell more if it had a Pokemon on the box rather than some sort of item or like tool or special energy. Looking at some of their other products for that sort of shelf appeal thing, here are some premium collection boxes, and of course they've got the Pokemon prominently featured on the box. These Pokemon cards are everything and a primary draw for how these sell, and League Battle decks are no different. And would you want the items or the tool cards or the Ace Specs on there? Maybe not. But most of the time, it's Pokemon that are featured on the front of these boxes, except there might be other exceptions, but there are boxes that do have trainer cards featured on them, including Roaring Moon EX and Iron Valiant EX have those booster capsules prominently featured on the front. I wonder if the people who are buying these, for the most part, know that or even care that the booster capsules are in there. So we are technically countering my own point of the Pokemon being the primary selling point, because even these collector boxes have sort of trainer cards on the front. And I actually happen to have both of these boxes here. Well, I've got two of these, one Iron Valiant ones. I got them for Christmas, and then I got one Roaring Moon for Christmas. I think this one I bought at a convention recently to build a Roaring Moon deck, but I digress. The point is, for the most part, in any sort of products for Pokemon TCG stuff, holo foil Pokemon are king, and maybe sometimes you see trainer cards, but that's not the focus here. What if there was an alternate solution, though? I understand that there's a maximum 6 holofoil cards. You can't change the packaging to make a spot for a 7th one. That gets really expensive. I don't want to lose a Pokemon in the process, but what if we made them not holo, right? And this is something to consider because they've done this in the past. For example, the Miraidon League Battle deck has Forest Seal Stone, which if you got it from a pack is only in holo foil. But if you get the Forest Seal Stone in the Miraidon League Battle deck, it's not holo. And they've gone out of their way to take holo cards from the main set and make them not holo specifically for League Battle decks, so that you could have the 6 Pokemon holo foil cards on the front of the box. The counterpoint to this is that Ace Spec cards are more prestigious than your standard trainer cards. Now, granted, Forest Seal Stone, absolutely busted card, one of the best cards in the game, but it is technically just a regular item card. It has the same sort of template as any sort of item card. And Ace Spec cards are different. They've got the bright pink background. They have the holo foil pattern that is more like a Radiant Pokemon. And Radiant Greninja could have been printed as a non-holo, and they kept that holo instead and made it one of the prestige cards on the front. So I think it is technically possible that Ace Spec cards could come in a non-holo format, making this whole conversation moot, but I don't think Pokemon's gonna do that. I feel like Ace Spec cards being their own category and being as sought after and special as they are, I don't see them making non-holo versions for these League Battle decks, though I could be wrong, and personally I wouldn't mind if they made non-holo versions if it meant that I was able to get a Ace Spec card in my League Battle deck while also getting 6 holo Pokemon. Which brings us to the end of this discussion. Should Ace Spec cards be in League Battle decks going forward? I don't think it's a black and white answer. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. I think it depends on the deck. Understanding the limitations of 6 holo foil cards per box, certain archetypes are going to need 6 or more just for Pokemon, and in those cases just stick with the Pokemon. But if there are archetypes that could have room, then yeah, I would argue to put an Ace Spec in there. Like Gardevoir is a pretty good example where I know Mew EX is awesome, but here, like this one, Gardevoir mostly runs Hero Cape. I have seen some with Prime Catcher, but I think you could sacrifice either Lumineon, probably Lumineon. I'd probably sacrifice Lumineon for an Ace Spec card, and that deck would probably be fine. You could argue Mew EX could go out as well and put an EX card, but people are going to like Mew, so Shelf Appeal, keep that. Lumineon, take that out, put in an Ace Spec, and we are good. But I don't think the answer is just, yes, we have one in every single deck. No, we do not. But what say you? Do you think we should have Ace Spec cards in every deck going forward? Do we not? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, I gotta get going. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at In Third Person. You can find me on Twitch at In Third Person, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Yes, we are back. I'm recording this right now before the Sunday stream, so really looking forward to hopping online in a couple minutes. And check out the website, inthirdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until the next one, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.